Welcome, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful New Year's and holiday season. We are starting our new term. We started actually yesterday. Today is Tuesday. And I want to go over some things that I really, really want to make sure that you're able to submit assignments, have them work, but not lose points over for coding errors or poor styling. So let me go over step by step is what I expect. Now, this is going to be anything that I physically grade. The Zybooks could care less. When you send something to Zybooks, it doesn't really care about certain things. But when you submit code to me, I'm going to care. And my goal is in this class not only to teach you how to code, but proper techniques in there. Remember, you may want to get a job and they're going to look at your code. And if you sloppy code, they may question it. So let's go through this step by step. This is kind of obvious. The name of the program is going to be important. So you can put your name on top and the name of the program and a brief description of the program, such as this program will get a radius and calculate the area of a circle. Something similar to that. All variables declared on a separate line. Now, I totally understand Zybooks is going to show you how to do them on the same line. However, it's always better to do it separately, especially so you can initialize them separately and comment them separately. And I'll show you that when we get into actual Visual Studio. All variables should be initialized. Now, I totally understand that it is not always necessary to do it, but I always go by the rule of it's better to do something and not need it than need it and not do it. You may be using 100 different C++ compilers, and when you declare a variable, it could be anything. You don't know whether it's going to initialize it. It may just point to an area in memory that has something left over in there, and you don't want to take a chance with that. So it's always better to initialize items. So the good thing is if you try to use a variable that doesn't have a value, Visual Studio will complain. However, whatever other compiler you're using, you may not get that, and you may get a bunch of junk in there. So you want to do that as well. We're going to comment all variables with its purpose. We talked about that many, many times in here. All variables should use camel case, and these are regular variables. We're not talking about constants. We're not talking about user-defined things. So the first word should be lowercase. Now, I totally understand that you can use an underscore, which is permissible as the first word. I don't recommend it. I recommend being very consistent, but I also recommend maybe using the underscore. You might want to use member variables, private variables, or you may want to use them for public variables, protected variables when you get to classes. So that leaves you the option there. That way you're never going to be confused. If you name everything the same way, it makes it very easy to distinguish between them. So we have, I have two words over here, hours and work. So we have lowercase hours, and we have the W is capitalized and worked in here. And I put in here, and I don't recommend using an underscore between words. But if you want to do that, make sure to capitalize the second word as well. Now, you probably can't see the underscore very well because this is Microsoft Word in here. And you have this little red line over here, doesn't like it. So just make sure that you take care of that. So let me see if I can fix that there. That takes care of that. So you can see how that works over here. All constants should be uppercase letters, no lowercase letters, and you shouldn't use uppercase letters in a regular variable. You want to make sure you look at something and you know right off the bat that it is a constant. And if you do use a separate words in here, just underscore max underscore students in here. Any user defined, such as a structure, should begin with a capital letter. This shows that it is user defined. All CNs should have a separate prompt. And notice I put without an end L. All functions should have the purpose of the program in there, or the function. And you want to put in sensible inline thing. So I have a whole bunch of things that are not required. But let's go over the things that are required first. I'm going to take this over here. So the very first thing up top, I've created a little mini program in here. We're going to start off with commenting your name So I'm going to put my name up top first, and program requirements. And this program will demonstrate proper coding techniques. Hopefully I spelled techniques correctly. So now we're good here. Anything that you want to put in there is fine. You don't have to write a book, just something very, very, very simple. So now let's get to variables. So let's just say we want to add 3 numbers together. So this is permissible. Integer number 1, comma number 2, comma number 3. That's permissible. However, I do not like that. And so this is the way I would like you to do it. So let's just put these all down here. So if I just type the variable data type here, and then I hit the enter key, it's going to indent it for me nicely. So now I can put a comma here, number 2, a comma here, number 3, and then I can initialize it. Notice I'm initializing 0, and then I'm going to put in the purpose of the variable. And then we can do the same thing with here. And then you would put in a comment for number 2. And then for this one, make sure that you are going to use a semicolon to end it in here. So now let's go and say, we want to add these 3 together. So let's say I want to get number 1, and I'll just do, so I don't have to do more work than necessary. So now all we need is number 1. So as far as getting the input, we're going to do cout. What is the value of number 1? So now here we have a question mark. Notice the space here. And then notice that there's no end line. Then I'm going to do cin number 1. So now what I want to do is add the 3 together. So I can display them and at the same time and add them, but I don't recommend it. So let's go and do cout. And I'm going to ask that every time you do a calculation, you put it in parentheses. So we're going to do number 1 plus number 2 plus number 3. And then that's all I need to do. I just need to make sure I have my return statement. And we're good. So let's go and run this here. And then we're going to make a modification of the program to see if we can improve it a little better. So let's just do 15. And it tells me 45. So that worked in here. So let's see if we can make this a little better. I'm going to now create another variable called sum. And I'll leave this here like this. And then I'm going to do sum equals, and I'll just copy this here. And I'll do a cout. The sum is, and we need an endl, and we need an endl here as well. Now, if you take a look at these, they both pretty much do the same thing. But if you're looking at this code, this is going to be much clearer. Also, if you want to do the average of them, you would have to calculate number 1, number 2, number 3, and then divide it again. Where here you already have the sum, you could just do the average. This is the sum divided by whatever you wanted to do. So let's go and add this here, run the program, and we will type in the same 15, we should get 45. And it looks like we got the same value each time, so our program works. Now I'm going to go over, let's see, variables commented in the first word. We went over, in here, we went over cin should have a separate prompt. Now, when you're doing Zybooks, Zybooks is going to mark you off if you put in a prompt. I cannot understand why. We're trying to get that changed. So the way you beat Zybooks, and then because you submit that to me, I actually draw it from Zybooks in there. So I'm going to just beat Zybooks by simply putting in a comment in here. So this is what's going to happen. So this is why you definitely want to put in a C out every single time. Is how do you know what to put in? You have no idea what to do. So we worked out good there. So all you have to do is comment out the prompt. Zybooks will be happy and you're good to go. And let's see what else we have. All functions should have sensible inline comments. So when we get to functions, I'm going to maybe make a separate video on here. And we have function prototypes. So let's just take a look at some of these items here. Functions should have a prototype. When we get to functions, I will make another one on that. We want to put in calculation. Now, I strongly am in favor of it. So you really, 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 really should put this in. Put in a comment after a closing brace. And we want to use endl instead of new line. The reason why you should use endl, and it is a pain in the neck to type, I fully understand that, is because the new line does not clear the buffer, where endl does. So if you have a whole bunch of stuff that you're printing and you want to use the escape character, just make sure that you finish it with new line. And then depending upon the assignment, when we get to classes, we'll talk more about this in here. So let's go and see what we talk about with the curly braces. So we have main over here. And I recommend doing this. So I know what it is. So I know that this main belongs to this bracket up here. If we have a function, so let's create a simple function in here. And we'll just call it, we'll return an integer and we'll call it, say, calc sum. And we need to pass in 3 numbers. Now, I'm not using a function prototype at this point in time, but I will. When we get to functions, I'm going to put in here calc sum. Now, one of the good reasons for using a prototype is you can have it actually create the function for you. In other words, if I go up top here and I do, say, integer, and we'll do double for this one. And we'll do it calc average. And it needs to input, say, an integer. I can right click here and choose quick actions, choose create declaration, and it automatically creates it for me. So all I need to do is put in the name of the parameter to be passed and to make sure that you change the sum however way you calculated that. What I do is I will just comment out the return, because if I don't comment it out, it's going to return 0, and I'm going to get all kinds of upset after I do a whole bunch of calculations and inputs, and then they have to redo the program. This way, it won't even compile. So this is pretty much all for now. If you have any questions, I always highly recommend that you ask me first. I'd be more than happy to help you any way that you want. I will do my best when I submit my feedback to you to tell you exactly what I took off for, because sometimes the rubric's a little bit ambiguous. So I'll try to be as specific as I can and give you the opportunity. You want to make sure that you are able to correct that for the next one. So all of these things here are highly, highly recommended. Everything that I've done on the top is going to be a requirement. I will post this as well. So please make sure that you are following my announcements. If you like this video, please like it. Please feel free to leave comments in here. So that is all I have for now. I'm looking forward to a great week and can hardly wait to read some of your discussions. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.